Welcome to the Bob Hagan Show, sponsored by It's Relevant. I'm your host, Bob Hagan, and the goal of our show is to introduce you to the Stamford that we know, the heroes, unsung heroes, and the movers and shakers of this town and the surrounding communities. I hope you enjoy our show, and thanks for joining in. I'm very honored today to have on our show Miss Ivonne Zucco. Ms. Zucco is the Executive Director over at the Center. Ivonne, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
You guys do unbelievable work. Why don't you tell the listening audience who you are and what you do and what you're trying to accomplish?
Okay, well, I'll tell you a little bit about the center. We have been around for about 30 years, and we are located right here in Stamford. And the work we do in the community has two essential parts to it. One of them is to provide services for victims of sexual assault. So when we say services, we include providing counseling services, which are free and confidential, but we also provide advocacy work for them, which means we kind of help them get through the crisis they're going through at the moment, and help them go into the hospital, the police, the court, or whatever is needed to help them move to a better place. We also have a 24-hour hotline that is mainly handled by volunteers, which are trained on sexual assault crisis counseling. And we have also support groups running in Norwalk and Stamford as well. Gotcha. So then the other part of our work is to raise awareness about sexual assault, and we accomplish that by providing educational programs in the community. So we go to schools, we talk to children about staying safe. We have a program in elementary schools that is called the Feeling Safe program. We also go to middle schools, high schools. We talk to parents, teachers, professionals. We train the police, and we train people at the hospitals as well, all the professionals, nurses, doctors, and so on, in the hospitals that we serve, which are Greenwich, Stamford, and Norwalk.
Well, it's wonderful work that you're doing. You and I were talking prior to the show that I know that you have English and Spanish. What about someone who might not be proficient in one of those languages? Are there other languages that you offer?
Yes, we are ready to help anyone that speaks any language possible.
Why Stamford? Why is the center located in Stamford?
Well, I guess we have to think about a little bit about the history of the center and how it started. The center was started by a group of people that decided to put a trailer behind Stamford Hospital to help victims of rape that were coming into the hospital to receive services. It was such a great cause that they were able to get a grant. So as the center has been growing throughout the years, we have always stayed in Stamford because it was the city where the cause was born. And actually, the Center for Sexual Assault was one of the first centers in the state that decided to do this type of work.
In regards to referrals and leads that way, do you work with the police, the schools, everybody across the gamut?
Right. I mean, we work with the police. We have a very good relationship with all the towns we serve.
Gotcha.
We work with the hospitals. They have our information. They know when to call us. We work with many different agencies throughout the area we serve. But we always want to be making those contacts in the community so more people know about us, and more people have the resources to give to their clients in case they find out that something has happened to them.
Gotcha. For someone that might feel that they have been sexually abused, it's probably a very difficult challenge for them to step forward. What would be the first steps, would you say, for someone that might feel that they've been abused in some way?
Well, one of the things they can do is call our center. And the phone number is 203-348-9346, and talk to a counselor over the phone and see how comfortable they feel about talking of what has happened to them. We will never ask them any specific questions. What we want to work with is the feelings associated with what they may think may have happened. Sure. All the calls are confidential, and our services are free of charge as well. So a person will get up to 12 sessions with a counselor that has a specific training on sexual assault, and will be able to come in and talk about what they feel comfortable talking about.
When it's painful for me to ask you, but how relevant is sexual abuse with children?
Well, it happens quite often. National statistics say that 1 in every 4 girls and 1 in every 6 boys will be sexually assaulted before the age of 18. Sexual assault is the most underreported crime in anywhere. Only about 60% of the crimes get reported to the police. That leaves a big number of people.
And why is that?
Well, there is a lot of shame related to sexual assault. There is a lot
As in the person it's done to?
Exactly.
Okay. Or the child
in the case of children, they usually know that what has happened to them is something that is not supposed to be happening because they have no reference. So that's why the education we do is so important, and it's so important that parents know how to talk to children about it and so on, and what children can do and what is an okay and a not okay touch, because children don't really know. Now, in the case of the adults, most victims do think that what's happening to them is their fault. In the case of women, for example, they will think, well, I shouldn't have gone there, I shouldn't have drinks too much, or I shouldn't have worn those clothes, because that's the first reaction that people do have in the community. Instead of supporting a victim, what they do is to ask them what is it that they did wrong that caused this person to do this to them. Right. When in reality, it shouldn't be like that. I mean, no matter what you're doing, nobody should ever have the right to do something like that to you.
What are your challenges with the center?
Well, there are different types of challenges. Of course, the center is a nonprofit agency, and most nonprofits are going through problems right now because of the financial situation in the country. Our funding is getting every time smaller and smaller, and we need to do so much, and we don't have the resources to do the work we are supposed to be doing. But another challenge that we face, that maybe other agencies don't face, is the fact that people do shy away from talking about sexual assault. And most people would like to think that it doesn't happen around their communities. Right. So when we have big cases like the ones we had last year with Penn State and so on, you know, people say, oh, how can this be happening? But they don't really think that it's happening in their communities as well. So for us, it's a lot of work to be reminding people that it's not only what happens in the news. Last week, is happening in our towns every single day.
What are your hopes with the center?
Well, the hope is always to have a world free of sexual assault. And we accomplish that through changing the culture around it. There are many things that are happening nowadays with media that portray that sexual assault is an okay thing. We need to change that. And we work with young people so that they understand that, so in future generations, the view is not the same that we have today.
What about someone who wants to get involved with the organization? What's the best way? What are you allowed to do? What can you do if someone looked at this and said, I'd like to help?
So we train volunteers 4 times a year. And our volunteers receive a very intensive training that is 35 hours. The training is also free. And what we do is just receive phone calls in people that are interested. We add them to our list. And when the training is about to start, we give them a call. We interview them. And then we take them into the training. And what they will do at the end of the training is to help us out with our hotline, which is where we need a lot of help because people need to take shifts and be there to answer the phone and be able to speak to someone that may wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning with a flashback, and it's the support right there.
Again, for our listening audience, I'm with Ivonne Zucco, who's the executive director over at the center, which is located in Stamford. They do unbelievable work. We will post the numbers if anybody needs to get in touch with Ivonne and her talented staff over at the center. For Bob Hagan and It's Relevant, I want to thank everyone for tuning in today, and especially our guest, who's been, as I said before, just a pleasure to talk with and get to know. Yvonne, thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.